And we're so thankful for Joan Roughgarden for leading us in her presentation. She's been around the world, as many of you know, and is just a master photographer. And so I really look forward to this presentation. And hopefully I can add my 2 cents here and there as we go through. Just as an opener, though, I'm very intrigued with this picture here, because this is the Damascus Gate, and it is in the northern side of the old city of Jerusalem. Historically speaking, Jerusalem is surrounded on 3 sides by mountains, or rather it sits on top of a mountain and it slopes down on 3 sides. And so the north side, though, is more gradual, and that's where the Damascus Gate is. It's on the north side. Traditionally, that's also where they would get their water supply, mostly from the north, as it would rain down and come into the old city. But the Damascus Gate is pointing north, and is, as you can imagine, at the end of the road that eventually, or traditionally, has gone up to Damascus, Syria.
Okay. Well, it's great to get going again, isn't it?
It is.
Yes, for kicking us off.
So just a word here. The background to this was that I was at a conference in Israel, and so I managed to hire a guide, this fellow Ariel Gabe, to serve as a guide for me around Israel for a week. And so prior to the conference, I spent a week going all around Israel. And this is the guide, and I felt safe.
Just worry about wiring the money.
Nobody would mess with him.
That's right.
No, I don't remember it. Okay, now
She wired the money to this guy ahead of time.
Oh, that's faith.
And I told her, he's not going to be there. He's going to be in Monte Carlo playing cards. But sure enough, he was there.
Oh, good. Honorable man.
I paid him the balance up front too. I just didn't want to
Well, that makes you sure
That is a lot of
that
faith.
he's going to be, when you get there, he's going to be honest.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Now, since it's Monday, I don't know why it keeps slipping off there. I don't like that.
Yeah, maybe that's loose. That's the only thing I can think of.
Or it's got some kind of timer in it or something. But in any case, here's the plan: is that this is Monday night, and we have no Monday night football, right? So we're going to do a, but in honor of Monday night football, we're going to do. I'll do the play-by-play. Father Kawika will do the commentary.
Very good.
So, and he obviously has been there to Israel many times and knows a lot about it. And for me, this was the first time. I was taking it as it comes. Okay, so just to orient us, this is Israel. The Gaza Strip, you can see the cursor, but the Gaza Strip's down here. The West Bank is this whole hatched-in area here. It's called the West Bank because it's on the west side of the Jordan River, which is what's running here. It's obviously the east side of Israel, but it's called the West Bank, relative to the Jordan River. And this is the Golan Heights up here. Oh, come on.
Sorry, I don't know why.
Yeah, and the Golan Heights is part of Syria, of course, but it was captured by Israel in one of the wars. And it's obvious that they had to do that because this is low along the valley right here is where there were kibbutzes farming, and people could just sit up here on the Golan Heights and lob mortars down there, and so they had to take it. There's no doubt about it. And then this is the Lebanon border up here. Now, here's the layout of the trip. I arrived in Tel Aviv down here and met Ariel the guide, and then we went up the coast to Haifa. Then from Haifa we went across, it doesn't look like much, but this is a hill, almost a mountain, what they would consider a mountain range. We wouldn't.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, there's a little bit of altitude here. So we then went from Haifa to Nazareth, which is, and Galilee, by the way, is this whole area in the north, and the Negev Desert is this whole area in the south. So we start out in Galilee to Nazareth, then we continue beyond Nazareth down to the Jordan River Valley, and this is the Sea of Galilee right here. Then we make our way up the Sea of Galilee, and you'll see coming to a whole bunch of the spots we hear about in Scripture all the time. And then we went beyond that up to a little nature reserve up here. And then from the nature reserve, we then came down the Jordan River Valley, and then turned inland to pick up Jerusalem. So from Jerusalem, we went near. Now, see, Jerusalem is surrounded by the West Bank here, they went to Bethlehem down here, which is quite near Jerusalem, but it's in Palestinian-controlled Israel. Then came back here to the Dead Sea, and then went on down and cased out the desert a bit. Then came on back this way and wound up back in Tel Aviv. Okay, so that's that circle route. And the first part, and most of what I have to talk about, of course, would be Galilee and Jerusalem, with not quite so many, with just a few pictures really from the desert.
So, Joan, question.
Yeah.
So, from maybe one spot to the next spot, depending on the small or the large, how long were you guys traveling, in drive? Hour, 2 hours? I mean, it's a big distance from what we're seeing here.
Oh, no, a couple hours at the most.
Couple hours, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The whole thing may be the size of Southern California, something like that.
Oh, that's like
So,
PCH
and
or something.
it's just the density of things to look at is amazing in this place. Just one thing after another. Now, okay, to start at Tel Aviv, first of all, Tel Aviv is like a big city, and the sense I had when I was in Tel Aviv was I felt I was in Manhattan. It had a big city feel, and of course Manhattan has a lot of Jewish presence in terms of the delicatessens and style of food, and you see all of that in Tel Aviv. And so you really feel at home if you're at home in New York. And now the markets in Tel Aviv and elsewhere are absolutely phenomenal. So so these are desserts here, baklavas and halvas and all sorts of good things. And then of course there's spices everywhere. So I'm telling you, you can go to Israel just for the food. Forget about everything.
You got that right.
Okay. So one thing, let's start small. One thing they love is their what is it? It's made of chickpeas,
Hummus.
Hummus. Yeah,
Hummus.
They love their hummus. So they queue up in these little restaurants which make homemade hummus, and so they just love this.
God.
However, it doesn't stop there. This happens to be breakfast at a B&B.
For how many people?
One. That's one person serving. What are you going to do?
Oh my goodness.
I like the little dishes, the heart dishes.
Yeah.
They're
The
adorable.
fish dish?
Yeah. Okay, and then that's breakfast. Now here's lunch.
Oh my god.
So we went to a place, and this was not a fancy place. I first thought it looked like a Denny's or some kind of fairly ordinary restaurant, and that's what came out. And so this is Mediterranean Israeli cooking, and piles of little things. Very fresh, very nutritious. It's just fabulous. Okay, so that's
So is that meat down at the bottom, or is that eggplant?
Eggplant.
or
That's
something?
that's eggplant. Yeah.
Eggplant.
Eggplant.
Yeah.
There was salmon.
I think there's meat here.
Oh, Joan, you're even a good food photographer, let alone
Yes.
I know. Did you?
And of course, pita bread.
Yeah, we
Oh,
love
that
that.
looks really
Is
good.
it hollow in there, or you just break it off?
Is
Is
that-
it
Oh, yeah,
fluffy?
Well, it's like yeah, break
It's
up.
like
It's
melon.
like these
Like
guys.
a tortilla.
These guys here, they eat it.
Look at that.
you
Like
know,
a
the
fresh
way,
handmade tortilla thing.
yeah. So they scoop up it up the way the Ethiopians do with their.
What's the liquid? The scooping? Is it
Oh,
the
that-
olive oil.
No, that's olive oil.
Oh, olive oil. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe olive oil.
Good for you too.
Yeah. So, okay. So now let's hit the road. So we're leaving Tel Aviv down here. And the first place up the road is Caesarea. And anything you want to say?
Oh well.
Or
just
shall I
trying
do
to
the
remember,
pictures first?
I think one thing of note about Caesarea is in the book of Acts. You might remember Peter has a vision from Jesus, and Jesus tells him to respond to a message he's about to get. And the message was from a Roman centurion asking for him, asking to see him. And so he gets accompanied to where the Roman centurion lives, which is in Caesarea. And probably thinking he's in trouble and all this, but the centurion, who's a Gentile, actually says, I heard about the faith, and I wanted to, who's the Jesus? I wanted to become a Christian. So it's the first Gentile convert.
Huh.
But that's in Caesarea. It's along
So
the coast there.
it has a long history. It's a big deal. What I also was told was that Jesus worked as a carpenter here in this town. So now it was a big Roman town, and it had a palace in it, and this is what
Oh my gosh.
is left.
Okay.
wow.
There's that,
Beautiful water.
yeah, and
It's like Wilo is gonna look like in 50 years.
yeah.
Oh man, I lost his reach already.
And then also, as we get to Haifa, there's a really interesting mission or temple, I guess you would call it, of the Baha'i.
Yes, right there.
And
Yeah.
take a look at that. This is in Haifa.
Wow.
That's it. Wow.
That's so
Is
pretty.
everybody familiar with the Baha'i faith? What that's
Yeah,
about?
they're like one that believes in all different religions.
Basically, kind of they believe in a kind of a siblinghood of all humanity, that there's truth in all faiths essentially, and very much peace, promoting peace and so forth. And that's the world headquarters right there.
The world headquarters, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then from above looking down,
That's beautiful.
there's the harbor of Haifa. And it's a really impressive place.
So the
I love it.
water is that blue?
Yeah, Mediterranean. Looking into the
Beautiful photograph.
That
Yeah.
is, yeah,
Show
the photo
me
is
this.
Really
Yeah, just
beautiful. The
wonderful.
colors and the
It looks
angles.
cleaner than I thought.
How did you get that angle? Are you in the
It's
you're
a
in that
fisheye.
temple? Okay.
Yeah, I'm in the temple.
You're in the temple itself.
I see.
Okay, so from Haifa,
Yeah, there are. Yeah.
we head up the hills to Nazareth.
Offshoot of Islam.
Okay. Now Nazareth is not in the West Bank, but nonetheless it's primarily a Muslim town. And so it's built on the hills.
God, man.
See,
We have a housing problem there.
Sorry.
sort of like San Francisco.
Yeah, really.
It's very hilly.
Pack 'em in.
And this is what the streets are like. They're really narrow. And
So do most people have really small vehicles?
yeah, these are pretty small.
You don't have Lincolns out there.
And we stayed at a B&B. We had to lug our stuff in.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Wow, that's
What was it called? Do you
really
remember?
hard.
Fauzi
It's kind of
Azar.
like
Okay.
Morocco.
I don't,
And,
I don't think I could.
Yes, so these are like these old Mediterranean cities, which have just have alleyways that predate cars. And that's the inside.
Look at that.
Really cute.
Yeah.
So this is a B&B. So you can stay at the B&Bs around around Israel, and it's just wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Hey, I also forgot to say that Israel is really fabulous. You can drink the water, okay? There's cell phone coverage everywhere. I mean,
Huh.
it just really feels.
Very westernized.
Yeah, it's very Western, and it's plunk right in the middle of Syria, Lebanon, Egypt down below. If you go into one of those, every time I'm in Egypt, I wear a headscarf, the cops everywhere, and this is fairly different. And we'll come to it again later, but we hear about all the rockets being lobbed in and all the military stuff, but you're totally unaware of that. I mean, I've been in a lot of places where you have to have police stops, periodic intervals, especially in South America. None of that here. There's never a police stop.
Exciting. That's great.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
This is the restaurant in the B&B.
Yeah, that's a
Right.
B&B.
Yeah.
Yes, I
So
think
yeah, like Morocco was kind of like,
Yeah,
this
Joan
is better. This is like more westernized and not. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. That's
Correct me if
exciting.
I'm wrong, but I think it's the largest Arabic city in Israel, I believe.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah. Oh,
And it's mostly Muslim, as Joan said, but there's a Christian minority, Arabic minority as well.
yeah. And so this is it's the site of this fabulous church called the Church of the Annunciation. And here's what it looks like on the inside at one level. So this is the medium level. So this would be the ground floor down here where the altar is. This is the medium level. Absolutely stunning building to come into. And
So is it circular or is that just a fisheye thing?
no, it's it's circular.
Oh, okay.
It's hard to photograph. And that's the altar, which would be. So a lot, you'll see in the north up here, the churches are built over sites of ancient Christian activity. So this would be the primitive or primordial, you might say, place for a Christian altar.
I think also by tradition, I think that's supposedly where the angel Gabriel did appear to Mary.
Yeah.
So at that lower level where
Yeah.
and then they built all around it later.
Wow. This
And
is
now,
so exciting.
if you're down at by the altar, if you're in the middle here somewhere, and you look up, you see this, and this is that's of course the ceiling, but this is the guardrail around the next level up. So as I say, there are 3 levels from the ground. This would be the top level, and that's up here.
Oh,
Isn't
that's
that
it.
gorgeous?
That's gorgeous.
And this circular area right here with a little fence around it, a railing around it, if you look down there, you look down to the altar.
Wow.
That's the configuration of this place.
Wow,
Now,
so big.
3-dimensional worship.
yeah, and
So do they serve every Sunday or just exhibit?
No, it's an active church. And
Yeah,
in fact, every day they have mass.
it's Roman Catholic.
down there, yeah.
And now you'll see along the side here, and I'll show you a bigger one picture in a minute, they have these paintings along the slide. So this is a relatively new church, as you can tell. And so this is that center area, which looks down into the lower level. And there's a great mural up here. And now this is one of the pieces of art on the wall. And these were contributed by lots of different countries. And this one happens to be the one from the United States. So, the woman clothes with the sun from this guy in Pennsylvania.
So they're all the contributions are images of the Virgin Mary in some way or fashion.
And so you can take one of each picture going all around the church, and come out with a dozen or so photographs. And I'm only showing the one from the U.S.
Oh, okay.
The one from Japan was quite nice too.
Yes.
So how many countries contributed to the?
I think about a dozen,
Wow.
6 on each side. It seems like about right.
So how big are they? Are they like 20 by 20.
huge.
they're big.
Yeah.
Yeah, big as the cutout right there.
Oh
my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a grand cathedral. I mean,
Oh.
just think big. Think really big.
Okay.
To get the idea of
Yeah.
this place.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, apparently, according to the sign there, it was built in 1914 on the site of a 20th century church. And apparently also it's the location of the carpentry shop at St.
Oh.
Joseph, where Mary was, where the angel Gabriel spoke to Mary at this location apparently, which was a carpentry shop. And there's a nice mural in there of Jesus learning carpentry.
You don't usually see him as a adolescent.
Yeah.
That's
Isn't that
a
nice?
picture,
Yeah.
yeah.
Kind of got this halo on his head.
Yeah, I get. Is Jesus the one in the middle?
Yeah.
The white halo.
Thanks, Dad.
Let me think I help you with one.
Was that a pigeon or something, or what was that? It was like a, oh,
Yep.
Oh, there's pictures.
Nice.
Yeah,
The
they're
Holy
doves.
Spirit, maybe. Or
doves.
The other one is the hawk. You see the hand? Really
Yeah.
That is crosscut saw, and Joseph had a saw.
That's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, that's right. Joseph has got all the carpentry stuff too.
Man.
Mary's
Can you imagine all
casing.
those kind of tools that they have, and you look at the structure that you showed earlier?
Yeah.
How they build this temple with
Yeah.
straight things.
I know.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean,
It is
there's
amazing.
there's some serious work, serious scholarship.
When
Okay, so now you go beyond. So okay, we now come over the hill. Nazareth is up there at the top, and now we're going down the hill into the Jordan River Valley, and this is the Sea of Galilee, which you see as you come off the hill.
Beautiful.
Isn't that great? That's the famous sea. You know, and you know, going here, I have to say, just brings so much of the scripture to life. Because you just see all these spots. It
Absolutely.
makes them real. So, so we come. So here's Nazareth. We come down Nazareth, and then we start driving up the coast of the Sea of Galilee. And here, there are several places right there on the flank of the Sea of Galilee.
Can I ask, the Sea of Galilee, does it have enough rain around mountains to fill that thing? I mean,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So
That's a good question.
this has fish in it, and
Yeah, right. Yeah.
this is the real
I'm just
part.
saying, you see that big, right?
Yeah.
And the below the picture that you had, the Dead Sea is really big, and you know
Yeah.
it doesn't go anywhere. And it's
Yeah.
so salty and everything. So
Right.
You see it, right?
Yeah. It gets water also from the Golan Heights.
Yeah, it's
Snow
coming down
can
from the
collect
north.
up there in the Golan Heights, and then they
Oh,
come
okay.
in the north, and then it comes
Yeah.
south into the Sea of Galilee, and then of course from the Sea of Galilee south, you got the Jordan River going to the Dead
So
Sea.
did you call them Arabs then?
But
You know, they live around
In Nazareth, yeah.
Nazareth.
yeah.
Yeah, because it turns out that a fairly significant amount of the Israeli citizenship are Arabs, and they have their own political party in
Oh.
parliament, and that's distinct from the Palestinians who live in the West Bank and Gaza. So I was unaware. I learned so much about
Yeah, I can imagine.
about Israel because we have no idea
Yeah.
here. And one of the things I wanted to do was to come out with my own opinions about the boycott movement and other activities. And so one of the interesting things is how many, what a large fraction of the Israeli population is in fact Arab and votes and has representation in parliament and so forth. And
Well, that's good to know, because it doesn't sound like we're not being told that.
That's always
Yeah.
cute.
Well,
Yeah,
I
we're
think
not
it's something
being
like
told that.
I think it's something
Yeah.
like 14% within Israel.
yeah, and so when
Yeah,
as you drive
population.
around, you get to
And
see
what
this.
Not
percentage
counting
of
West
those
Bank.
would be Christian?
Less than 2%. Maybe.
Really?
Yeah. Between 1 and 2% Christian.
Of the 14%.
Yeah, and even also the West Bank Arabic population as well.
There's not a big
Can you all see
Christian.
down there?
There's not a big Christian body.
Yeah, I mean, sadly, it's shrinking in a way. I mean, people are, emigrating out and that sort of thing.
Pushing him.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the next picture?
Okay, here we go.
Yeah,
So-
part of it, yeah.
One of the first
Amazing.
Yeah.
one of the first places to see is the Church of St. Peter. So this
Oh
is
my goodness.
this is where commemorates where Peter was commissioned as the first bishop, right there,
Yeah.
the founder of the church.
Right on the Sea of Galilee.
Right, see, that's the Sea of
They
Galilee.
didn't have that much followers,
Is it-
Rachel.
How old is this particular edifice, do you know?
No, but not very.
Maybe 100 years.
Oh, this is the location.
This would be the
There'd
location.
be
So
the
a lot of
location
these
and they
things,
built the
yeah,
on top of it. Yeah.
exactly.
I
And,
see,
and,
yeah.
and
That's something when you go to the Holy Land, you'll see a lot of it. It's kind of their way of, especially back in time of preserving a site, was to build a holy edifice on top of it. In that sense, to preserve it, at least from a spiritual point of view, to preserve it in that sense. Very different than maybe our idea of what we think of as conservation, but that's a pattern.
yeah, and so
Working on the Temple Mount.
So this is
Yeah,
inside
the
that
tourist-
And
the
this
church?
is-
tourist industry.
Oh,
and so
okay.
this is inside the church, and then this would be a rock on which Peter presumably actually sat.
Ah.
And
On this rock, I will build my church.
Are those candles on the
That's-
side? Are these
These are.
candles right here? Like people lighting
Yeah,
candles?
looks
oh
or
yeah,
what is
yeah,
that?
little what are they called?
Votive candles.
Votive candles.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
The Catholic Church, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And Peter's name is a pun on the word stone or
Yes,
pebble.
that's right. Yeah.
So when he says rock and Peter is that, it's Peter's the pebble pun, which, but he means,
Well, there it
he
is.
means the rock. He always he can take a pebble and make it into whatever he wants.
Right.
And another thing you encounter along the way is a lot of Bible study groups. So there are a lot of religious pilgrims, or I guess you could say, and this happens to be a Bible study by a Lutheran from the Missouri Synod. Is
Oh
that-
my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I spoke to him, and he told me he was a creationist, so I
Right.
kind of lost interest.
It's more, more conservative.
Okay, thank you, move along.
Like these things.
But I have to say, he was a very animated speaker.
So do you have different ministers, or or just people that are making it into a broader group, and they have they can assign to have Bible study for the people or whatever.
Oh no, these guys came from America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it changes all the time then.
Yeah. So for example, if Father Kawika led a group, we could all be sitting here in the amphitheater while you rolled forth.
Right.
One of my trips, I was conducting a communion there. I was officiating communion from where he was there.
This very spot.
That very spot. And we had a Palestinian Anglican guy, and he had gotten for us wine from Cana, actual wine from Cana. As you
Oh
know,
my goodness.
Cana is where the first miracle of Jesus turning water into wine, all that. So we were all looking forward to this wine, and so I'm leading it, and then of course I take up the elements, and I have to consume first. The worst one. It was like, remember castor oil? It was kind of like that. It was so bad. And I had to keep a straight face.
It was special wine.
Yeah. And then of course I inadvertently put a lot in the chalice. And so not people only took little sips from it. So there was all this left. And I didn't want to just toss it. You can't just toss blessed wine, So I tried to force myself to drink it. It was just terrible. It was terrible.
No, going back,
That is commitment.
we passed through Cana. I didn't show any slides in here. Actually, on my website, if you look at the Travelogue, I have two versions, full and abridged. We're
Okay.
doing a bridge
Okay.
here
Gotcha.
because we don't want to be for so long.
That's where it was.
Okay, so then the nearby town, very nearby, is Capernaum, right here, the town of Jesus. Here's a place that it was a fairly big town. That's all that there is at the moment. There's a little temple above some of the ruins on this. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's from the time of Peter.
And then also in this area, is one of my favorite spots is Mount of Beatitudes. And this has these gorgeous,
Isn't that gorgeous?
formal gardens looking out over the Sea of Galilee. And another thing about it is throughout the gardens they have these stones with the various Beatitudes printed on
Oh,
them
lovely.
right here. And I took a picture of every one, but don't worry about it. This is one of my favorites right here. Okay, so then leaving the Sea of Galilee and heading north, where we went to this spot, which is a nature reserve right here called Agamon Hula.
Oh.
And the reason I'm showing it to you is that a number of you are familiar with California and the Sacramento Delta, the Central Valley.
That does look like that.
That's what this looks like.
It
It
does.
looks like
Yeah.
a growing rice.
It really does.
Yeah.
With like green, green, green.
Yeah.
And like the oak, looks like oak woodland hills almost. And in these canals, there are these
Oh,
cute little rivers.
what is that? Is
And
that an otter?
what that is something called a koi poo.
Oh, I love those things. They're so
And it's
Brought
a-
them in the 50s, it says.
Yeah.
Oh, they have those in
How big
Like
are
a
they?
nutria.
A nutria,
big.
yeah, it's the other
Yeah.
big
They're,
fish.
they're pretty big. They're like just adorable. And they're
Got
like
the
And then all the
dogs.
animals like them
Dogs.
too. Like they're very compatible with other.
Are you okay, Chris? With the sun? Yeah, okay. Okay.
You want us to? Is it the sun?
Yeah, you know,
Okay.
You can
okay.
come closer over here too.
Okay, all right, well, let's go. And then the other thing, there are a lot of wildlife here. I couldn't resist showing you
Oh, look at
just
that
a
bird.
couple.
So
Gorgeous
pretty.
bird.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know the name of it offhand.
It's like a cousin of a piper or something like
Black
that.
brown. Black brown white. Black brown white.
It's very international.
Yeah.
Right, now guess
Let us
what?
know.
Brown, white, and blacks.
Guess
Black,
what?
black brown.
What
Black,
is
brown.
this? What is this?
Guess what this is?
A river?
The Jordan River.
The river.
Wow. That's the Jordan River?
Yeah,
It's like
so
a
crossing the Jordan,
canal.
up here,
Yeah, among the
up at the
sea.
top, crossing the Jordan is, you can almost jump across it. There's
Oh my
this
God.
was taken from a little bridge, automotive bridge.
There's something like city wise or starting
Is it because like it gets like over time it gets overgrown and things like that?
No, it's just
or
very narrow.
Oh, it's just
Uh,
narrow. Okay.
Yeah.
Save that one.
Where was it
Yeah,
when
so
we went to
Jesus
the Jordan
was-
River, it was
Jesus
just
and
like
Moses,
ankle
they were-
deep. Where?
Yeah, so let me keep going. So,
Yeah, okay.
continuing down the Jordan River, we come
We are damn it.
to
Welcome.
Oh my
a
goodness.
baptismal
Oh.
site. Okay,
Oh.
if you really want to do this.
Oh, that's like.
And so now it's starting to get sort of into becoming more of a big deal.
No. Thank you very much.
We did one of our pilgrimages, we did a renewal of baptismal vows. We stood inside, and the water was up to over our knees, and did a renewal of baptismal vows there.
There's also a lot of catfish in this river, which I took the pictures of, but I didn't show them to you. if I just show you animals, it won't be
Is
here all
this
night.
like man-made then? Like
Yeah,
they
on
made it
the-
kind
yeah,
of
on the
bigger and then
banks.
they put all
Did
the
they serve
banks
the
and so then you
catfish?
can do.
No.
No. Must be holy catfish.
Yeah, well, no, you can see them in the water.
They're
there on-
baptized catfish.
Smart ass.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
There's noodling
Hey,
there. Is
the
that what
Catfish
you're
is a
doing?
delicacy.
Yeah.
Come on, Rick.
Okay.
In some countries.
Okay, so now we're gonna head, just drive. Now this was maybe a day's drive or so, a long day, all the way from north of the Sea of Galilee, all the way down here, and then make a left-hand turn and come into Jerusalem. Okay, so now we get Jerusalem.
Yeah.
This, of course, is the iconic Dome of the Rock. However, as you know, this is Muslim, so no Jew can go there, even though it's emblematic of Jerusalem. It's in a little chunk of the middle of Jerusalem, which is off limits to Jews. And that's a really complicated thing because it has a Christian history as well as
Of course, it's built on the Temple Mount.
Yeah, so why don't you want to hold forth on this a little
Okay,
bit?
sure. It's we don't know for sure, but we think exactly where the Dome of the Rock is. It was over the Holy of Holies of the temple. The temple was much larger than this. I mean, you'll see a whole kind of flat area with trees and everything now. And so this was a section of that. But so they think this was built over the Holy of Holies. But this is the third holiest site in Islam and the holiest site outside of Saudi Arabia. And I think where Muhammad had gone up to heaven and come back on the spot.
And built on top of the site of, say, the temple.
Right, the Holy of Holies of the temple.
The Holy of Holies of the.
So there's, you can imagine the emotions around from all sides.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So neither side can give up. I mean, say, okay, well, you can have it, and I'll have something else instead. You really can't trade this off.
Oh, right. Because it's so important. It's both
It
religions.
is.
Yeah, fundamentally important to both. Since this
Yeah.
is the.
I think
Jewish
this building's originally 7th century, I think. And then the dome, the gold part was added sometime later, maybe 400 or 500 years after that or something.
So Joan,
It's
you know,
beautiful,
so
beautiful building.
before building these things, the two sides was okay with each other though, right?
No.
No.
Never would.
No, I
Why
don't.
did they build it then? You know, together like the half and half.
Well, this would have been the time of the Ottoman Empire, who,
Okay.
you know, well, or soon, no, sorry, let me back up before that. It was after, of course, Muhammad and the rise of Islam in the 600s. And then about 100 years after, they had a big expansion, not only to the Middle East, but also to Spain and all the way to India and so forth. And so and then soon after that was when they built this. And so at that point, this area was under Muslim control, complete Muslim control.
And,
At that point.
you know, and they're always building on top of the previous
Right.
religion. So you know you find Christian churches on top of pagan churches
Yeah.
at good sites, and then you find Muslim.
But amazingly, they would still allow Jews to worship and Christians to worship. They were allowed to have synagogues and churches respectively. They weren't wiped out or anything.
But now they don't allow Jews to worship in the
Yeah. So I couldn't,
Well,
and since I was
diaspora
with a
had-
Jewish guide, I couldn't get up there.
Right.
We left them behind.
Well, as you'll see,
No, it's
to
pretty
get into
guarded.
Bethlehem.
Come on, Rick.
Very good.
Come on,
Yeah.
Thank you
So
very
would
much,
you think
man.
that you would trade
That's your
guides
talk
too?
about.
Could you do like different guides like the next time you
Well,
go?
we'll
kind of
get to
thing?
that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually was able to go in and only on one of the trips, and that was because our guide was West Bank Palestinian. He knew a Palestinian guard there. Somehow they knew each other, and so they allowed us in for like 5 minutes and then out again. You know, just very
Oh,
quickly.
cool.
But normally we shouldn't have even been allowed to be in there at all.
So you went in the rent the center.
Right, right. You can walk around it, but not.
You went in the center and everything. You saw the whole thing in there for
We
5
went
minutes.
inside and saw inside, and there's actually inside the floor. This is Mount Moriah. You may have heard of Mount Moriah as part of Jerusalem. The top of Mount Moriah juts up, or let me put it this way: they built the floor around the peak of Mount Moriah in the Dome of the Rock. So you see that the peak of that mountain just kind of come up, kind of like what Joan showed earlier about
The rocks.
St. Peter's Church,
Yeah.
almost like that. And that's in the center of it. So. But we were only allowed in there for like 2 or 3 minutes or something, and we had to get out.
You know, it's so amazing though. When you look at the building, right? How straight the rocks are to fitting in place as compared to now. I mean,
Yeah.
but back then, how did they?
Well, like you said, they didn't have our technology.
Yeah,
today, they
right.
still
Oh.
did it.
Okay, so Jerusalem is surrounded by this wall, like so many of the old cities, surrounded by a wall. And this is the wall, the exterior wall around Jerusalem. And this, as we talk about, this is
yeah.
the Damascus gate into the wall. See the walls over here.
That's the picture that we saw.
And there are
That's right.
there are a bunch of these gates, maybe 6 altogether or so,
Something like that.
something like that. And
to go into the.
to go into the old city.
Oh, it's so.
Okay, so it's a gate into the old city. And when you go through the gate, this is what it looks like.
Oh, my goodness.
And I see no cars, so this is.
Is that just stone or is
Yes.
it? Oh, because it's got an interesting, looks like a pattern almost to it. That's just
And it's going downhill, as you can see.
Yeah, it's going steps,
Yeah, steadily down.
down into the shop.
So they just drop off, like big trucks drop off stuff right at the
I
gate,
remember
and then you
that
have to
Yeah,
get in.
and then
Is
they'll-
that basically
They'll
what it
carry
is?
it in with like.
Temporarily coming up, we're going down.
Okay, and then this will give you an idea of what it's like walking around in Jerusalem, because this would have been a road here, but then they cover over the road, and
Due to
you have
rain.
endless shops. Now, another thing about Jerusalem is that there are different sections. So there'll be a Jewish section, an Orthodox Jewish section. Then there'll be different kinds of Christian sections, and
Did you walk through, different sections?
yeah, I went through a bunch of them. It's hard for a visitor to tell exactly which section you're in.
And you can get lost. I mean, it's such a maze in there.
And it is
Yeah.
a maze. Yeah, it really is
And
a
they'll
maze.
all be
Oh, it looks
grabbing
like
you
it.
to come in their shops.
Oh my God.
Right.
They will give you tea and treats if
Yeah.
you come in their shop and do their stuff.
Yeah, they're
That's
great.
smart
And-
marketing, good
It
marketing.
is. It is.
It's great. It's
A
really
free
interesting.
tea.
And you can flirt with them.
Yeah, you can do
Oh.
whatever. I bought a lot of money.
And you
but,
feel
but
obligated
you
to
have
buy
to learn
something.
to barter too, which
Yeah,
was
yeah,
the
yeah.
other
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I
yeah.
got some stuff really good price,
You
but I
insulted,
kept
you don't
giving it
barter.
back and
You
making
insulted
more.
it.
Yeah, if you don't barter, you're insulting
Oh yeah,
people.
And,
it's fun.
So here's just another one of these, and they're endless. And as you say, you get lost.
Yeah.
Like if you decided you liked something, and try to get back and buy it.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's all over.
And it's
John,
usually
gotta buy where you
crowded
have it
with
right there.
people. It's usually
I was gonna say the same
elbow
thing.
to
I'm
elbow
surprised
with
you got
people.
these shops. You
Yeah.
got a lot of people in.
This is in, yeah,
And what
either
time-
late at night or early morning, because every time we were there, it was like so crowded with people.
Yeah.
What time of year was this, Joan?
June.
Oh my goodness.
Did you go?
Huh?
When
Yeah,
did
well,
you
there
go?
are people
I
here.
can't remember, it was about the same time, 2015, I gotta back and look, but I went with Jolene Hawkins,
Oh yeah.
yeah, the Woman's Pilgrimage.
Right.
I love all those menorahs and things like that.
Sorry.
So- Okay.
Okay, and then that's just a picture to give you the sense of it.
Oh.
You can see it.
Yeah.
So you can-
Those
they have
those
small-
those things inside where the steps are. The 2 rows of kind of filled in stones, just so they can get their carts out.
Oh.
Oh, these.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, now a feature of Jerusalem is this thing called the Via Dolorosa, which is sort of like a Stations of the Cross kind of deal. And you start here. So what you do is you start at one spot, you go to another one. This is one of the churches.
It's a good schematic.
Yeah, and then you go around and you wind up at this one. And
You're walking or you're running?
you're walking. Oh yeah. And
Okay,
so
okay.
here are the 14 stations of the Via Dolorosa. Pendergrass receives his cross, falls. You know this whole story. Then leading up to Easter. And now, one of the things about this is that you find a lot of Western tourists who are carrying crosses. So they'll one of these big things, like I think we sometimes this
Really?
church does on
We've
the
got, on the beach.
on
there,
Kia-
the Calia.
yeah, so I don't know how they get it to the airport or if they
I
get
don't-
one locally, but
I don't know.
they're carrying really big things and they're tromping around to each station. Yeah.
Wow.
Do they do that especially a lot like before Easter or the
A lot of
night
times in
before
there in
they
June.
do that kind of thing?
I would assume
All
so.
year.
All year, yeah,
all
because
year
we
round
did
they
it,
do
it
this
wasn't
thing.
anywhere near Easter.
Right.
Wow.
And this, for example, is station number 4. And so there'll be these little what's the word for this? Alcove, thanks. At each one of these stations, and this is what happens to be station number 4. Now, one of the places, one of the churches on the Via Dolorosa is this one, and I'm annoyed that this file name is showing there. This one is called the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Okay? And so the sepulcher is where Jesus, after he was died, is supposed to have been laid on this flat stone. And so there it is. And people then go through all sorts of devotionals in this church.
You can touch it if there's no
yeah, you can-
plastic on
it's
it
so
or something
wide,
like
though.
that.
You can touch it, yeah.
So wide.
And then there are little interior sections of the church, and it's guarded by this guy here who checks you out. And then you crawl into this little crawl space
Oh my gosh.
and do more devotionals. So this would be in the Russian Orthodox section, or Armenian. Russian. I think it's
No, I don't know.
actually this is Greek, isn't it?
So maybe Greek Orthodox.
Yeah, maybe Greek Orthodox. And
That's just,
and then this one
wow.
again that's Greek. We originally thought it was Russian, but there are a lot of Russian pilgrims. And then another site is the Garden of Gethsemane right here. And this I found very interesting because they have these ancient olive trees.
Oh. Do they still produce olives?
I believe so, yeah.
Some of these are over 2,000 years old, so some of these would have been around when Jesus was there in the garden.
And they're still alive and
Yeah,
well
oh, yeah.
and producing
Didn't
fruit.
they got an olive tree
Olives.
die or something?
Sorry?
Was that the story where Jesus said to kill the
No.
tree? Was it an olive tree?
No, it wasn't. Oh.
Not right there, but not
Not
Oh, yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
in the story, was it
That's
olive
really
tree?
neat. Is it pretty big?
Fig
Or how
tree.
big is
Fig
this
tree.
garden?
Fig tree, that's right.
Garden.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a huge tree.
Oh, well, I
The
mean
trunk
the whole
looks
area.
huge.
Is there
Oh,
a lot
not
of
too
trees
big.
in there,
no,
or
no, it's not like
a botanical gardens or
yeah,
something?
not
Or
like
a
that,
really
no,
big
it's
thing. That's really neat.
not much bigger than the size of our lawn out there.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
And this is outside of the
Good
old
size.
city of Jerusalem, so this is to the east of the old city. There's a valley in between, and then
There was also a tomb there, which I didn't take it. Which I
Right.
have a picture of it, I'm not showing.
okay.
Oh.
Okay, now in Jerusalem, let's get back to. So there's the Dome of the Rock there.
This one that kissed the wall?
Yeah. So this is the so-called Wailing Wall.
Oh.
Right here. And you see it's right on the edge of the property line of the
Oh my gosh.
of
The
the
thing.
of the Muslim ground here. So and then there's this ramp that you would climb in order to get into it. But of course, Jews can't go up this, and I didn't either. But that would be the way to access this little plateau on which the Dome of the Rock sits. But of course, since this is then a wall of the temple, then this would be as sacred to Jews the way this is sacred to the Muslims, as we just discussed. And now, just take a notice here at these umbrellas right here. What's going on here is that there's a bar mitzvah.
Ah.
And I think it's this guy right here is being celebrated, or maybe that guy. I can't tell for sure. In fact, I think it's this guy because he has a white on. And they're all taking pictures. Now notice that everybody's on this side of the fence is male. The other side of the fence is female.
Oh, wow.
And so they can't be together in Orthodox Jewish law. So they have this, dare I say, misogynist scheme where the women have to stand on chairs, the lawn chairs, peering over when here's the mother of this guy. And that's the only way she can participate.
Wow.
And the more you find out about what the Orthodox Jews require, It's
More you don't want to join.
yeah, it's pretty.
Definitely a feminist would wanna join that group, right?
It's definitely.
Also, I think where
problematic.
that fence is, you know how it goes perpendicular to the Wailing Wall there.
Yeah.
I think the left side, I think that's like 3/4 of the length of the Wailing Wall, something like that, and the other side is only 1/4.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's
Something
what
like that. So the women get much less space.
Yeah, so the women
See that?
get to approach the wall on this side, and the men get to approach
Right.
the wall on that side.
Right.
And then, as you know, when you've probably seen pictures like this, when you get to the wall, people stick little prayers into the wall. Now, another thing that while I was in Jerusalem, concerning the absence of militarism. So here we have Jewish girls who are in the military. You notice they don't have any firearms on them. And they're just here on vacation themselves, busy looking at a map, trying to figure out where to go. A tourist map right here. And now everyone has to serve in the national service, except for Orthodox Jews. They manage to escape service, which then gives them a separatist flavor. And so here, for example, is I just thought a very lovely picture of these
That's cute.
soldiers on vacation and honoring, I guess, someone who is just a bride or something. I don't know, so far away I couldn't get to them. Okay, now also about, I was very surprised to find out what the geometry is of the Palestinian state, or the West Bank. The West Bank itself is around this green margin, but it's not as though the Palestinians control this. What the Palestinians control is, in this sense, an archipelago of little spots. So this dark brown right here is Palestinian built-up area. With this light color right here are Area A, full Palestinian control. That would be these in here. Then Area B, joint total control, and so on. So that given this geometry of what's controlled, makes it difficult, in my view, to think of what a two-state solution would be. What would the Palestinian state be?
Well, it's shrunk over time, right?
Yeah, it's shrunk.
So, you know, like after.
But it's not contiguous, is my point.
Exactly. I think it
Yeah.
was at one point. And then
Oh, well, yeah.
it's been encroached upon over time. Since,
So,
that's
so,
why
but
I-
given the boots in the ground kind of thing, this is what one is dealing with.
Right.
And not only that, there's a complicated scheme of where you're allowed to drive. So these various highways are color coded into whether you're allowed to drive on them. So
Wow.
so the red one right here says checkpoints along and adjacent to all restricted roads. And it depends on what your license plate is, determines what road you can drive on.
Oh, wow.
And so there's,
Israeli or Palestinian.
yeah, so there's a lot of, depends whether you have an Israeli or Palestinian.
Were there guards, guns, on the road and everything then?
No,
Yes.
no.
Well,
not-
there was when I was there, when
well,
you went through closed gates
Yeah,
and
all-
roads would be closed without you being noticed and there'd be guards there. We had them come on our bus. There were Israeli
Oh.
with guns all over the place.
Rick, that's bad news, man.
well, I didn't see that
Okay,
in
well,
my
maybe
trip,
once
but
you
what
see
I
that
did,
then.
I'll show you what I did see. So then
I'm sure
there's,
you have your passport.
Yeah, you have to. You do.
so then there's this wall that you've heard about, which separates Israel from Palestine. And this is what it looks like.
So, Joan, I told that one side is the development is really good, right?
Yeah.
And the other side is like,
Yeah,
poor like hell.
and you can see that from the satellite maps too.
I see.
It's
Yeah.
like Berlin.
And
Eastern Germany. Seems like.
Now, this was very interesting to me. So this is taken from Palestine, or from joint control, from the West Bank, looking out toward this complex right here. Now, this is an Israeli settlement, a Jewish settlement, and you hear about the Israelis building settlements into Palestinian territory. And to me, the idea of a settlement was something like the word settlement suggests something fairly temporary or transient. But that's what they call a settlement, which really call really a whole condominium development. These are big things, and when people talk about removing the settlements and letting the Palestinians reclaim them, imagine trying to remove one of these, bulldozing down.
Sure. Ain't gonna happen.
Yeah. So these things are here to stay.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh,
so
moving yours.
the political calculus is kind of complicated, and I'm not sure. I know that we in the U.S. don't have an understanding of what's the deal is here. And then there's a lot of discussion too about roads being built deliberately to cut off communication between different sectors. Now,
Joe, did you get an opportunity to see where the what is it, the new, I guess, capital,
No.
that you didn't know? Okay.
no, because this was still when Tel Aviv
Okay,
was the capital.
alright.
Now, so I did go into Bethlehem. Bethlehem is part of the Palestinian-controlled, completely controlled West Bank. So here you have a checkpoint. Okay? And this is the inside then of the wall on the Palestinian side. And
Why is the barbed wire on this side though? On the Palestinian side? I mean, you see at the top?
yeah.
It's like,
Makes it harder to.
You bet the Palestinians didn't build
it's
this.
high enough. Okay, alright.
Try to
Jewish
climb
people
that
do.
wall. Huh?
The Jewish people, they don't want the
Lob
guys
stuff
to move.
over it.
And so,
You're aiming for.
so now you start to get in, pick up some political art with these posters here.
Which is the Palestinian?
Okay.
You too can sponsor a poster.
Go get one, Rachel.
Okay.
Yeah.
As Joan said, though, I mean, this wall, this came up
Secretary.
probably about, I want to say, 12 or 13 years ago. They really started getting going on this wall. About 27 feet tall. And it has separated some Palestinian communities from each other. There's also, at times, there's a claim that it's cutting off water, access to water, or favoring water, more water for Israeli settlement areas and that sort of thing. That's going to be a real issue in the future too, is water rights.
The water flows from what? The Palestinian side then? Or what? No.
Well,
Close on the mountain.
consigning the Palestinians to areas that are more arid and
More
just
water
hard to live
supply.
on.
Yeah, I know.
What is this, Joe?
Okay, now this, so in Bethlehem, this is the Church of the Nativity. And this was damaged by a fire. This is the inside of it. And, it's supposed to commemorate the place of Jesus' birth. But then I've read, you would like to comment on this, I've read a lot of accounts that he was actually born in Nazareth. And,
Yeah, I mean, Matthew, of course, claims Bethlehem because Jesus being the Messiah, the hope for Messiah was, the intention is that he'd be born in Bethlehem, the city of David. But yeah, so there is some difference from theological circles about that. But this is Bethlehem, 6 miles south of Jerusalem, and I think Joan's probably about to show this, but downstairs there's like a
Barn?
cave.
oh, wait,
Born?
I left it out, yeah.
Okay, there's like a cave, and that's supposedly the place where Jesus was actually born. Because a stable, it wasn't like this kind of wooden stable or something we think of like a barn or whatever. They would keep animals in caves for protection. So there's an actual cave down there. And so it's a real spot of veneration. for pilgrims to go to.
I'll have to add that. I didn't know when I was looking at the slides. I didn't remember the significance of the slides. So
Right, I know it's hard.
I
I know what you mean.
I remember somebody talking about like being on a tour and it's like, and then they'll sell things all right there
Yeah.
because you get to the cave and they're like, this is where he was born, right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And you can buy a picture of it for
Yeah, yeah.
You feel the spot.
A remake.
Yeah.
Okay, so from
Radio's down in front of it.
That's right.
from Bethlehem, we headed south, then into the Negev Desert.
Beautiful.
Here's this-
Oh, that's beautiful.
sea level. Oh my goodness.
Sea level.
Yep. Okay, down from here, and
Oh, yeah.
so now there's another baptismal place
Yeah.
south as well. So they have these along the river.
No
Um,
Where's
this?
or anything.
south of
That's where Moses
Near
was.
Jericho. I
Southern
think.
Jerusalem.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
and however,
Oh my goodness.
Oh, no.
danger,
Oh,
danger
gosh.
one. So you don't want to cross that river there. That gets you into Jordan. And so it says you're traversing a military zone. Do not cross fences due to fear of landmines.
Oh, my
Landmines.
goodness.
My goodness.
That's too bad.
And okay, now continuing south from there, you pass these cliffs,
Yep.
and these are the cliffs where the Dead Sea Scrolls were, Qumran. And you see these caves. There's zillions of them.
Yeah. It was around the time of Jesus. Before Jesus, there was an isolationist sect called the Essenes, and so they separated themselves from society, and they came here. They believed in an apocalyptic future. And the children of light will conquer the children of darkness, and all this. Well, they hid or stored many ancient manuscripts, biblical manuscripts, and as the significance of which is that when they were discovered, they turned out to be the most recent evidences of Scripture that we have extant, today.
Why did they keep in the mountain? I mean, wouldn't the packaging, the thing rot? Or
That's a good question. That's a very dry environment.
Yeah, it's dry.
And so that preserved it actually.
This
They're
is-
kept in these
that's the
jars.
deal.
Yeah, these big
So you kept
earthen
in
jars.
chests
caves.
or whatever?
Yeah.
So the dryness preserved them.
And it is dry.
So if it was in Hawaii, forget it.
Yeah, forget it. Yeah, it's gone.
Yeah.
I guess it used to be covered by water though, yeah? I mean, if you
Yeah.
look at the
Time ago,
mountains.
Yeah.
Looks like it.
I think it was strata. Maybe limestone. So then, as you continue on,
Oh,
you
Masada, yeah.
the Masada National Park.
Not Malasada.
Is this the Leonard's National Park?
Sugar Mountain.
Sugar Mountain.
Sugar
That's
Mountain.
funny. Okay, sorry.
Okay, and there it is.
Sorry.
That's the
It's
Masada.
really late. I'm still in
Is
fine
that the
art
name of the
difference.
mountain?
Yeah, and it's the name of a. Well, do you want to?
Sure. This is significant from a kind of historical military point of view. You may know around 70 AD or CE was when the temple was destroyed by the Romans. In the lead up to that, they were chasing out some bands of rebels, of rebellious Jewish people who were against Roman rule. And so a group of them encamped at this mountain, Masada, and it was like their last stand. So the Romans they're trying to get up in there, but you can see how hard it is to get up in there.
You see the road.
And
You see the ramp.
right, so the Romans built this elaborate ramp. They built the ramp to get up there in order to bring in their military equipment and so forth. But it took them years to do it. And then finally they got to the point of going in, and so the people in Masada decided to go into a suicide pact. So as it were. So I think I get the story a little wrong, but I think 10 men were chosen to put to death 10 other people, and then one guy put to death the 10 guys, and then so the one guy was left when the Romans came, and then he died by suicide. And so
He committed
that was
heresy.
like their last stand. It's like their last, and so it's seen as, even today, it's seen as kind of this heroic. We're opposing grand forces in the world, and kind of it's very much kind of Israeli pride, as it were.
And here it
Now,
is.
is that near Herod's Herod's palace?
That is, yeah, that's Herod's, is it Summer Palace, I think? It's summer.
Is that the top of the
summer
mountain?
residence? Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
It is Herod's, but I think it's a summer residence
Okay.
on top of Masada.
So that was what leveled off that top of the mountain was when
Right.
he was building it,
Right.
right? Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, good.
Good point, yeah. Yeah, so this is from the top looking down, looking out.
How did you get up there?
You'll see. And then-
I don't know if I want to.
Helicopter.
okay, and then this is an interesting one. Joseph Flavius apparently described this in some detail.
Wow.
They had a lot of food stored.
They had an intricate irrigation system to get water
Yeah.
up there.
Yeah, if you're an engineer, a civil engineer, and you go up there, the guys will tell you at great length how they were able to pull it off, because it's really quite an engineering treat.
And they had
Oh,
like,
See, this is one
years
of the
worth of water, years and years worth of water.
this is one of the storerooms, and
How many tour groups were you guys in going through this one?
I was in one. I just had one.
I know, but how many you think per day you felt up there? It was 10, 20 tour
Oh,
groups?
not too many. Yeah,
Good.
I was quite uncrowded. And then this is the ramp that you're talking about that the Romans built. So they built this ramp to get themselves up to the palace complex, and it's not the one you use now to drive up.
It's just these tiny buildings.
And so the Roman army marched up here and conquered the place. And then here's
Here you go.
Oh, it's a video.
Yeah.
Oh, this is how you got up.
Oh, there's a funicular.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Oh, but cable car. Oh,
That's how you
This is a
Only the Romans
massive.
had this.
I know,
wow.
right? Tourism must be
Well,
a
that's sea
massive
judge enough.
business.
Yeah, That's what I'm saying.
For you to build cable
supposed to
cars.
be
that
some
way.
sound. But we didn't get any sound.
It's all right.
It's okay.
Mm.
Hey.
So then
Yay!
we got to the Dead Sea, and that's me.
It's salty there.
And I really don't like it.
It's kind of grindy for you.
It's slimy.
Yeah.
Oh.
How long did it take you to really feel like you had gotten rid of that feeling? Just one shower? I mean, or is it
Yeah,
just
well, I
They do
didn't
have
stay in
showers.
very long. Yeah.
Well,
Well,
when you say slimy, so is there showers for people that you go in and you have to
I remember
wait
I
until you
went
go back
outside.
to
I
the
remember,
hotel?
I remember changing in the parking lot.
Oh, it's bad.
We're all closing.
Yeah.
The door was open. They, nestled in with the automobile door.
Oh,
And changed.
Oh my gosh.
And but you bob up and down like a cork, and so you really can't even swim or anything. It's just horrible.
In fact, it's best not to.
Really
You
thick.
get just
It's good for
swallow
s-
some water by accident that way.
The
Yeah.
section where we were at, they kept yelling at you because you can't roll over, have your face down. So they go, on your back, on your back. It was a resort area, yeah, they were yelling at people. You could only be float on your back.
People
Yeah.
go a little crazy there.
Well,
Face
Are
down.
you floating or were you in a?
I'm floating.
Big, huge
Oh,
floating.
he gets
It's just
sick.
a baby bobbing
Yeah.
around like a
It's
cork.
so
imagine.
salty
It's
and
so
buoyant, so it's like you're like a cork. You can't.
There'd be people out there
Slow
though,
down.
they're digging
Yeah,
up the
that's a-
mud
that's a
and just
lovely
spreading
photo.
it all over
Yeah.
themselves.
It's good for
Actually,
psoriasis
wasn't
though,
bad.
isn't it? And like all
We
those
brought home bus.
slimy
It's
Okay.
It's
yeah,
more
just
salt
the
than the
idea,
salt.
but for me
Salt
personally,
than
it gives me the
Than
willies.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah,
as you
very
keep
good.
driving, you find these Bedouin encampments. So this is a Bedouin encampment here. You see, it's off the grid.
Veteran?
Bedouin.
Bedouin.
Bedouins. And so this is a resort in the desert here. You see, look at how severe this desert is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's incredible, isn't it? I mean,
So
hardly
they get the
any
water
vegetation.
out over there.
So this is a resort which is made to resemble a Bedouin camp. And
Wow.
so
Right.
So this is for,
That was good.
Kind of like
But
glamping.
they're not
Glamping is really
supposed
style.
I wanna go there.
What if they had sandstorms? You know, they had to pull the curtains down.
so
Oh.
There you are.
Is
I had a good time at this place.
Yay.
Where was this? Is that the guy?
Joan.
Yeah, no, that's not the guy. But
guy.
I was having a great old time on this trip, taking photographs all day and flirting with the Bedouins. Don't worry, I behaved.
We'll talk about that later on today.
The camel protected her. It's the guide, I'm totally nuts.
And so, anyway, one of the really neat structures in the desert here is called a maktesh. Makteshim is plural. And these are big craters which turn out to be erosional structures. And this is the biggest one, Maktesh
Wow.
Ramon. See this huge
Marvelous
That's
photo,
what
John.
like a caldera.
And then
Yeah,
there's a
yeah, very similar.
and there's a
Like the
The river
beginnings
that
of the
goes
Grand
out.
Canyon or something.
yeah.
The river, the what? Fills in?
Yeah, so basically, all this stuff in here gets eroded, leaving a crater.
Now, do you think that that is partly due to human habitation,
No,
or is it
no.
just normal?
It's
That
totally
it
logic.
Yeah, it would happen if
Erosion.
nobody was there at all.
Right. And then the guy took us to a really neat little oasis in the desert, where there are
Look at that.
some lovely antelope. There's one
Ibex.
float. Is that neat?
Ibex?
No, I don't think so. I don't know what it is. I should. And then there are these desert camouflage birds.
Cute.
Yeah.
I really
He's
love
talented. Looks like he
Yeah.
catches lizards and things.
Speaking
Oh
of
my God, that's
Dinner is served.
I have a warm spot for lizards, you know. So
Ah.
every slide has to have the lizard. Or slideshow has to have the lizard. And then
So where is this on the map that the desert spot that you were
Yeah.
with the camels and stuff?
That's really pretty.
I'm just trying to get.
This is water though, right, Joe?
Yeah, it's an oasis.
Is that a natural seep, is that what it is?
yeah.
You have fresh water there or what?
So
Must
near
be 'cause
Ramon.
the-
Well, I think you said fresh water, right?
It is fresh water.
Yeah.
No.
You can drink it?
I don't
For
know.
the
if it's
animals.
So if
fresh
that's
water.
the Dead Sea over here, you see that, the Dead Sea, then this would be inland.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
but
Where-
you're still in Israel.
Oh yeah, that'd be the border to
The
Egypt.
border. Okay, I'm just trying to. We
That's
went
not
through
a
there
get-
and I can't figure out where.
That's not En Gedi, is it? Or what'd you say? it was?
It's near the Misfi Ramon, and
Okay.
Ramon is where that crater is.
Okay.
So it's one of the reasons I like showing this from the website because you see this is coming in over the internet, and so I'm showing you directly off my portfolio. And the reason that's really good is that I can get the information like this.
Yeah, that's great.
Because it's in the metadata of the photograph, but it's hard to access it.
See, when you talk about potable water, the animals couldn't live if it wasn't potable.
That's true. Yeah, that's very true.
And then a neat thing toward the end was encountering these spice trails right here. So of course Israel's up here. Gaza was apparently a port, and the spice from frankincense and myrrh and so on was being trafficked from Oman all the way up here.
Nabateans.
Yeah, so 1,800 kilometers of desert road.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bringing
It's
frankincense
very
and myrrh. And so you can pick up ruins. See, as you go around Israel, you just find either a lot of Roman ruins, a lot of Christian things. There are even some from the Crusades, some castles which I didn't show, and then you find something like this. These old trails, and so here's frankincense. There's pepper, camphor, cinnamon, cardamom, and that's what they would have cooked with at Jesus' time. And then we're now on the way home, and 2 more stops. One stop is at a shop. Let me show you. Let's show and tell time here. A shop called the Bedouin Embroidery Project. And I was gonna wear this, but it was just too hot. But they make these lovely, lovely embroidered dresses.
Oh, wow.
Hey.
You've worn that, have you worn that?
I have worn it, yeah, but not.
I recognize that,
That's
it's
beautiful.
beautiful.
But it, it's floor length, because Palestinians would be Arab, would be Muslim, so the women can't show any skin.
Can't show any
So if I wear this, it's hot.
Right.
And
So you can only wear it during the day.
yeah,
But then
but
they
of course
wear
it's
it
cold.
in
It's
the
cold
heat,
there.
though.
Even though it's desert, the wind is blowing and it's cold.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I can I pass
Did
this
you have
around
that
or
made
just,
for you, or was it
No, it's
ready
there.
on the right? It
It's
was
off the
that,
shelf.
okay.
here, let me hand it to you.
It's not my size.
It's a nice color.
Yeah, because they do such wonderful blacks. One other show and tell thing.
Yeah, that doesn't even look like you're saying black or gold. Gold more vibrant.
Right. Oh, the materials that, I mean, we go for like souvenirs and stuff like that.
Well, here it is.
I can forget to get my stickers.
And this is a stone. See all the mica in it from the side of that crater, the Maktesh crater. So this is.
When
So
it's
these
hot
are-
during this time,
Oh,
or
they're
this is
so
cold?
pretty.
There they are.
Is it during this time? Temperature, you taking this picture, how
Well,
what was the degrees?
Well, first of all, the humidity is 0, so that makes it kind of chilly. Even if the air temperature is up there, it's not like 81 there still will seem cold. 81 in the sun,
That's
but
right.
in the shade, it'll actually seem quite chilly.
Oh.
And so that's why they can wear this, and that's why these Arab garments, which look like they would be stifling hot, actually are okay with the temperature. And remember, this is June, which would be the warmest. It is cold here in the wintertime. And so they might be wearing
Something over this.
yeah, something over this as well. So the clothing really makes sense in that climate in a way you wouldn't expect, if you were from here.
You get pictures of the men's wear too?
No. Now the men,
It's like a shade, like
We're not gonna
what
see
is it, the
this,
shade,
Here you go.
blackout curtains.
Oh, black up.
Because it keeps you cool over the heat, so it keeps out the. Oh, fun! Oh, they're dancing. What
See-
celebration was this? Or do you know what they were celebrating?
Jim's slides are amazing.
Oh my god.
can you hear that at all? What is
Yeah.
this going
Yeah.
on?
It's just a piece of rock.
Is it a wedding that they're at, or?
Yeah, that was celebrating a wedding, I think. And
Wow, look at that.
Ron didn't set me up. I'm sorry that the sound isn't coming out of there because it's
You can hear
shut.
some of it.
Yeah, it must be coming out of there.
It's
I hear
coming
it
out of
somewhere.
your computer.
It's just coming out of my computer.
What about this rock? What do you think?
Like
It's
that-
okay.
That
I
was
mean,
from
Look at the inside of this.
just the side of the road where the crater was.
Right.
Or you just picked it up on the road and you have to go and chip it yourself?
No, I just picked it up. Because there's a lot of loose rocks and stone around there.
No.
No.
I'll play it again.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that was not, yeah.
I'm surprised they let women dance. I love the
Now,
colors.
there's no men there, do they have separate
That's
wedding,
Hare Krishna.
Well,
wedding celebrations?
Well, I don't know, of course, but all I could say is I was seeing the men, when the women were here dancing and having a really good old time, the men were sitting on chairs scowling.
Just like home.
That's all. I mean,
And the women were having a wonderful time.
they were,
You could tell.
yeah.
And
And
lining inside.
now that I know that the sound doesn't go there, next time I'll bring a little portable speaker with me.
Okay.
'Cause
You can hear it.
I can hear it.
And I'm really deaf, so I can
That's why you sit next to the thing.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
Okay, so that's that spot, and then the last spot is here's my guide, and he brought us to his house right before dropping me off. So this is his house. Isn't that nice?
Nice one.
Yes. Is that in, I mean, in the
Beautiful.
desert community?
Huh?
Is that in the desert area?
Yeah, he lives in the Negev, but not in the deep Negev.
Yeah.
In the
Yeah.
closer to Jerusalem. And this is
The desert.
his inside of his house. He has two
Oh,
kids.
those are
That's his
very
wife.
nice.
Really?
That's a really beautiful house.
Yeah, it is.
I like his gas range stove.
Yeah.
She has on jeans.
What kind
And
of,
that's it.
what kind of, so what kind of employment does that person own that, you know, you can, what kind of,
I mean, what does his
yeah,
wife
what kind of
do?
employment, you know?
best.
I knew you were gonna say that.
I don't know what his wife does. So I don't
Yeah, I
remember.
think you should tell
Well,
me.
She
he's
might
a
have been a
guy.
school teacher.